Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's work session for October 12th. At this time, we'll now call the meeting to order. On the item number 2, we do have several sets of work session minutes and then just an update about the Port Towns quarterly meeting. Councilmember Rout, I know you're waiting for some information, so if it's okay, we'll come back to the June. Oh, go for it? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the June 8th work session minutes? Moved by Councilmember Rout. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Mendoza. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. We'll move forward with the September 14th work session minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Councilmember Mendoza. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blunt. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. The next set, item number C, actually, is just referencing that the council, we attended the Port Towns quarterly meeting. That was on September 23rd. And in the documents that are on the website for tonight's meeting, you can just reference the brief summary of discussion, but there were no votes or anything of that nature. That was our regularly scheduled quarterly meeting with our Port Towns partners. And so moving to item D, September 26th Mayor and Council Orientation Retreat. The Mayor and Council, we did have a retreat, a leadership retreat on the 26th. And you'll also find in the materials reference to that particular meeting, along with a copy of the agenda that we worked through during that point in time. But again, that was more of a retreat in nature. Town Administrator Tonelli, do we need a motion to approve?
I would approve each one individually. It's just, as the mayor said, it's just more to get it on the record that the mayor and council did meet in a quorum, even though no action was taken. I'd just like to get it on record.
Gotcha.
That everybody was together, and again, it was just discussion purposes only.
Okay, so I'll back up to the Port Towns quarterly meeting summary and ask for a motion to approve that summary. Is there a motion to approve the Port Towns quarterly meeting? Moved by Councilmember Rout. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilmember Lundy. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. And then along with the same theme, we'll move to the September 26th Mayor and Council Orientation Retreat. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Lundy. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blunt. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, going back to last Monday, when we had the work session for flood relief resources, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I so move.
Moved by Councilmember Rout. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilmember Lundy. Any discussion or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much.
I should take care of the housekeeping.
Yes. Thank you. And at this time, I wanted to just turn it over to Councilmember Rout because I know she's been heavily involved in assisting residents regarding the flooding update. She and I have tag teamed with staff as well. But I'll turn it over to Councilmember Rout just to give residents an update.
Residents, good evening. Council members, good evening. And staff, good evening. So at this time, we have not received a response from the county as it relates to volunteer assistance. And the volunteer assistance, basically from Director Gill's office, they were going to reach out to the state of Maryland because the state of Maryland has a memorandum of understanding with a few volunteer-based organizations in the state of Maryland, such as Habitat for Humanity, to assist individuals who experience natural disasters, to help pull down all of the dilapidated or wet and moldy walls and flooring and replace them, which is low or free of cost to the actual resident. We have not received, we have turned in, the town has turned in the names to Director Gill's office with contact information, and we have not yet received a response. We were on a preliminary, an additional call with Director Gill, who is over emergency management, and at this time, he does not think that this area, this entire area, meets the federal qualifications for federal disaster relief through FEMA. And so at this time, the state of Maryland, in addition to Prince George's County, are looking at other options for residents, such as small business loans, or maybe small grants, social services assistance that is benefited from, that is sent out from the county, that residents who are affected can access. So we are in a holding pattern until Prince George's County develops, finalizes all of their assessments with all of the homes. And so I had another conversation with a resident who was affected by the flood, and I don't understand why residents may think that we gave them false hope. And so what I want to do is explain that process. So the federal government has a certain dollar amount, a threshold, that residents, once they experience a natural disaster, there's a financial threshold that has to be obtained in order for federal assistance to be enacted. And even though we had over 200 homes in the Prince George's County area affected by this 100-year storm, unfortunately, not all of the homes were destroyed, okay? So there were different categories that were affected, they were destroyed, there's categories, and that's why our code enforcement staff took a training, as well as other municipalities' code enforcement, and everyone pulled together to visit all of the homes on the Prince George's County roster and register. Unfortunately, there were some basements affected, there were parts of homes affected, but not everything was destroyed. And so what we needed to get that federal designation was 200 homes destroyed, and they weren't. This doesn't mean that they weren't affected by the flood, but that is the federal requirements to access the type of relief. And so I want residents to understand that they did not complete that form inaccurately or whatever, but there has to be a different option that the state of Maryland can take. And that different option is going to be accessing other resources, such as the volunteers, such as the small business loans. And there are other declarations that the state can do. So from my understanding, last Saturday, the Office of Emergency Management, with assistance from all municipalities, were checking the last few bit of homes so that they can submit that information to the state. And so it's just best that we have the county lead on this initiative. And then we also have resources that our police department has. And so if any resident is affected and did not fill out the form, please fill out the form and also contact our main office, and they can be routed to our internal resources that we have that's going to be led by the Town of Bladensburg Police Department. Mayor, I yield back.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Rao, and I do appreciate you just bringing it home with respect to the conversation you had recently, because I know when we were together talking to residents, we made it clear it's our hope that by gathering this information, we pull it up to the county level, and collectively we have enough to meet whatever threshold is there. But I do understand if you're in a situation like that, you may not hear all of that. You just think, I'm giving my information and I'm guaranteed assistance. And that was not the message. So thank you for just walking us through that. Any further comments from the team or additional feedback you want to share with respect to the flood situation? Okay. And as we said, we did meet last week. The minutes are there on the website regarding the work session that we held for flood relief, because we understand on a larger scale, we are heavily reliant on the county to assist us. And what I mean by that is our storm drain system, our Bladensburg pumping station are not equipment or infrastructure that the town of Bladensburg has direct management or oversight of. And so we very much need to be working with our county organizations or departments to make sure that they're in the best of shape and that they're operating optimally at all times. And I will say, since this event has happened, we've had representatives from OEM, which is Prince George's County Office of Emergency Management, from MEMA, the Maryland Emergency Management Agency as well, coming out several times, not just once. We've had meetings with them to really talk specifically about what our needs are. We've had a site visit at the pumping station. A couple of us were able to go there and talk specifically about what failures occurred on September 10th and get real answers and see what's happening. The county now realizes we're not trying to point blame at them. We're saying this was a horrible situation. We need to work with you to make sure it doesn't happen again. And so because that's where we're coming from, I do believe that's why they've been communicating even more, even to the point where yesterday they emailed to say, this is our plan. You know, Delta is upon us. If things happen, these are the layers of information. This is who to contact. So that opportunity, that communication has started to open up and have results. And so we'll continue pushing as much as we can, in addition to the resources that we can provide through Unite Us and working with the community action team. So,
I also want to add too, I mean, Public Works and Code Enforcement has met with the county. They're identifying the problems and the county is cleaning them up. I think you said they're doing jetting.
Yeah, they've been, yeah.
It's just a quick.
Basically, they're going through, if there's any clogged storm drain system, they're actually jetting with some high pressure water to clear them out. They also been going through the community, and any overgrown brush that's coming through some of our open storm drain systems, they've been addressing and cleaning those out and removing debris.
and I believe that their action started within 2 weeks after the storm. From the call that Councilmember Roud and members of the staff and I were on, they immediately started saying, all right, we're gonna prioritize your maintenance and see what we can do to help. So I don't want people to give up hope. Things are happening. It may not feel like it. It may be incremental, but this is very much still on the top of our minds, and we'll continue advocating on your behalf. And so with that, we'll conclude the flooding update and move into the census update. And so we did have the understanding September 30th was going to be the end of the opportunity to submit information for the census. However, there was a ruling in higher courts that indicated the current administration could not legally change the date, and so it is in fact October 31st. So the census team has a call tomorrow evening, I believe, to talk about next steps. We want to make a huge push in the community, or a couple of pushes. We still have grant money left to help us get our numbers up, so don't worry, these are not your taxpayer dollars, these are grant dollars that we want to use to improve our census count. I'm happy to say we did pass the 2010 number, which was 60 point, was it 2%, 60.1%? We're like 0.6% ahead of that.
I think it was like 6.4 or something. Like
I knew
that,
you would know.
Yeah.
Our researcher over there.
But the point about it is, we exceeded it.
Yes, and so we want to keep pushing. And so we have two winners who won the next level of gift cards. So we'll be contacting you this week to get those to you. And we'll talk again with the census team tomorrow evening on our call about how to really play that up and make it something to get excited about. So if you see the Census Patrol come into your neighbor delivering a gift card, maybe that'll prompt you to go ahead and complete your census. So more to come on that, but any questions or anything I left off from the members of the census team?
Just one last comment on the census is that if you are interested in joining our census group, we're meeting tomorrow at 6 via Zoom. And if you are interested, please call our main line and give your name and contact information to Miss Diane, who is our receptionist, and she will invite you to our meeting. This is we're going to go out with a bang, guys. So please, if you are interested, if you have any type of recruitment and engagement skills, we need you at the table.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Can you maybe give the number out and
Sure. So that number is 301-927-7048. Again, 301-927-7048. Great suggestion, Ms. Diane.
And Mayor, if you just got a couple of minutes, just maybe tell the community the activities you all have done, just so people, when
Sure.
they see, so it's.
Yeah, so we have been the folks who've been out with some of our officers on the loud horn or the loudspeaker with the sirens and the lights going at a couple of locations, including Autumn Woods, Autumn Woods, the Phoenix Apartments, and Gateway Gardens. And so AJ, the ice cream man, comes out with his truck. And so we provide a sweet treat to residents who come out to chat with us and complete their census. We also have rolled in voter registration and assistance. So if you've moved to town, you haven't updated your registration information, it's a great way to connect with us. We're working on locations. Is it safe to say the next one or not yet? Okay. Kenilworth Towers, we'll be there in the next couple of weeks. Just because you don't live in that complex does not mean you can't come. If you live in Bladensburg, when you see the flyer go out, still come out. Encourage your neighbors and residents to come out because we're there to help. And it doesn't matter, again, whether you live in that complex or not. The idea is we want you registered to vote, we want your information correct, and we certainly want you to complete your census. We also have been fortunate to have assistance from U.S. Census Bureau. So they sometimes are able to send enumerators out, which makes it easier to service more people because they're pretty speedy at getting that information and inputting it. We've been fortunate to have enumerators and volunteers who are bilingual, which has made a huge help in our efforts. And Reverend Gail Addison and the Poor Towns Wellness Ambassadors have assisted us. Councilmember Blunt reached out to engage them in our efforts, and they've come out 2 times so far. So hopefully we can get them back. Councilmember Jolene Ivy's office has been supportive. Senator Augustine's office of District 47 in the State House has also supported our efforts. So we're really trying to make a big splash. We're doing giveaways. You may get a $10 Chick-fil-A gift card or a $10 Chipotle gift card for coming out and completing your census. So again, we'll be out, you'll get the notice, and when you see it, just make sure you come out and bring somebody with you who needs to do their census. How about that? So, thank you, Mr. Tonelli.
No problem.
So, next up is the food distribution update. So, I just wanted to give you guys more information because you probably have noticed we haven't done our grab and goes for several weeks now. And unfortunately, there's a bit of challenges with the funding at the federal level. So, this is not that the town isn't trying to continue the program. It's a matter of Congress getting their act together and releasing the funds. Capital Area Food Bank is at their wits' end because it puts them in a bad situation because things are very political right now, and they're a nonprofit organization. They're just trying to feed people. So one of the latest criteria that came down was in every box of food, there has to be a letter from the president, as though he is personally giving you this food, which that's yeah, that is concerning. But again, because Capital Area Food Bank is a nonprofit organization, they cannot be political. And so they basically said, look, if this creates a problem with your organization, you can take the letters out. But so far, that is one of the new criteria that will be a part of it, which is unfortunate. Again, as of last Friday, I believe it was, I emailed for an update and still the funding hasn't come through. So as soon as that happens, I promise we will let you all know. We'll get the word out, get the team geared up so we can get our distribution going again. Unfortunately, though, we won't know the quantities until they come back to us and say they've been approved. So it's unfortunate for Capital Area because so many people depend on them, and they're really in a position where they can't give out much information right now, so they're kind of feeling the pain.
And depending on the quantities and mix of product given to us, we may do it here or may do it at another location better suited for us.
Yes.
Depending on the space.
Yeah, so because of the fact that they've added, at least what we're told now, dairy and produce, we can't afford to jeopardize the health of residents. So actually, Port Towns Elementary School is willing to partner with us. They've secured a food services refrigerated truck so that as food is unloaded, we can put it directly in there until it's time to safely distribute the food. So we have been trying to think ahead in case they come back today and say, okay, we're ready to go tomorrow, which typically it is a last minute state of affairs, but we're trying to do as much of the planning to be prepared and also to ensure safety of the food as we can't afford for anyone in the community to be harmed by the resources. But any further updates or additional comments? I'm still stuck on the letter. That was quite interesting.
It's funny you said that. I was at a food distribution in Suitland, and every box we gave had to have a flyer from Angela Ossobrook. And I know that the county council, they do that. It's political people getting involved. And sometimes they had not much to do it. They're just offering them a help. But then they push their letter there so that people could see their faces. So it's turning something good political.
That
It's
is
really
interesting.
terrible.
Interesting. All right, well, thank you for that feedback. And at this time, we'll turn it over to Mr. Hall for the PEPCO update.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, and staff. Thank you. Well, this is a staff project because we've been working with PEPCO for years. Myself, Mayor, and Vito, and Sean. We've been working with PEPCO Representative Mr. Tony Ruffkins about removing double poles in the town. We only had 14 to 15 double poles that's in the town that's on our street. Not talking about SHA Street, SHA roadways or nothing like that. So right now we're at probably about 85% completed with all the double poles within the town, and I think we have about four double poles that's left within the town. And the reason that PEPCO is not the only contractor that removes, PEPCO is the only contractor that removed the pole, but before they remove the pole, they have utility wires such as Verizon and all that. So another contractor has to come in before PEPCO to remove all the wires off to the old pole, and then they're allowed to install them onto the new pole. But PEPCO would not do anything until Verizon or Comcast, whichever utility company have their wires on the pole. But other than that, like I say, we only had about 14 to 15, but it shouldn't have took 3 years to do something like that. And thank good to Mr. Ruffins, as we all been pulling his coattail to try to get these things done, along with other projects that he is trying to do within the town as well. So right now, we still have 4 poles that's still left up for removal, and we're going to jump right back into him to see where he at with the rest of the 4 poles for the removal.
Great, thank you, Mr. Hall, for that update. Any questions or comments from other staff or from the council?
Just a quick update too. For them to do that, I said we look at some other projects we could do for PEPCO, and one of the things we're looking at right now is identifying a couple places for charging electric vehicles. One of those is at Town Hall, and maybe another location that we can oversee. But it will not be a cost to Town Hall, but it's a cost that PEPCO will bear themselves, and they'll be responsible for them. But we want them in a safe area, and we got to build guidelines around it too, that people don't, park it there for 48 hours and everything else, because then it's an enforcement issue, and it's also an engineering issue for them as well, to make sure they have the power going there and it's accessible. Like we identify a perfect spot here but because of the way the parking lot is with the pavers, it wouldn't work with the charging stations there. So we looked at the other side of Town Hall, but we're still in that process. So we're working with them as well with that.
Thank you. And Councilmember Rout?
Thank you, Mr. Hall, for your update. Just a point of clarification. Do they need to remove the double poles to address the low lighting in areas, or is that something that can be done? Because I remember at our last council meeting, you had advised us that there was a lighting project that was coming. And so I'm just trying to, are the two connected or are they separate?
No, they separate.
Thank
They
you.
separate. Yes, ma'am.
So unfortunately, what happened over several years is, let's say Comcast had a pole and they put it next to a Pepco pole, and then let's say for whatever reason Comcast said, I'm not doing business on this street anymore. Those double poles are left and they're not in use, but it's an eyesore. I'm giggling inside, thinking of one resident in particular who every time he sees it, it sets him off, and I get it. It is concerning. And so this is a project that's been going on for several years, just trying to get them out here to just remove the old ones, because they're not really being utilized for anything. So it's really just pollution in the community. So, yeah.
And got one more question. And what Councilmember Rout was speaking about is the lighting. What we talk about, we have another grant that's coming in, and what we had done, me and Chief and Ms. Pat had identified the area on 57th Avenue for more pedestrian lighting in between the high school and the community center where there is no lighting. And also, we know, from being out on the streets, car windows getting broken in certain particular areas where there's no lighting. So we figured it'd be feasible to address the how would I say it, heavy impacted area through robberies or anything like that, vandalism to cars or anything. And we chose that spot right at the moment because it's a little distance, and I think if we're gonna continue that project, we need to kind of be corresponding with the pedestrian lights that we already have on 57th Avenue to come on following up past the community, right at the community center.
And if I could just add just one last bit to that, it's also to encourage our residents to walk and feel safer walking through that dark area. It is extremely dark in that stretch. So we want them to encourage, health and wellness by walking. And those lights, those pedestrian lights, they're not very tall, but they illuminate just enough to you can see your surroundings.
And it's ironic that we're finally moving forward with that project at this time in the middle of the pandemic, where people don't necessarily want to go to a gym. They just want to get out and walk in their local community. So by, the timing of this coming online, I think is definitely good timing for our residents, and definitely appreciate that update.
And also, just go back to Councilmember Rout's, that project is the $150,000 community legacy grant that we're going to be starting on soon with that. It's going to coincide with that same time, I guess, 58th Avenue, or after 58th Avenue is done.
Yeah, it'd be 58th Avenue is get ready to move forward, and then you still have to bring out the electrical guy. They have to do specs. They have to see whether they got to get permits with Pepco and some other stuff like that. So our 58th Avenue project should move or be finished before the pedestrian lights.
Great, thank you for that additional info. At this time, I want to segue into the mayor and council member roles for some of the initiatives that we have going on. The idea isn't that we can't help in other areas, but just to have a point person who we consider our lead for certain areas. So I'm going to pick on my friend over here, Ms. Blunt, who we know she advocates and loves doing for our seniors in the community, and not just those that live in her building, but she has a heart and passion for all seniors and wants to come up with programming and address transportation needs. So the idea is just saying, okay, Ms. Blunt, you're our lead for senior issues. If I have an idea, I'll come to you, talk it over, talk with our town administrator, and let's come up with some suggestions or recommendations. In other cases, such as Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, usually they send us documentation. I want to say it's late November, because the trend has been typically by the December meeting, we actually have to vote on those appointments and then share that information back to COG, and they have specific committees. So we've already done that for this year. I think, Officer Reinhardt, tell me again the one that you're
I'm
on.
on the Chesapeake Bay watershed.
Gotcha. And Councilmember Lundy, your area for that?
Oh, it's been so long. I can't remember right now. I'm serious with this. Well, no, it wasn't. It was,
Was it sustainable?
no, I can't remember right now. It's been a long time.
Okay. And then,
But I wasn't the main person, I was just a part of the committee.
right, because we did have a
I think
lead
she's
and
the
a
main
backup.
person on that one.
Yeah, so it's the homeless.
Okay, it is, okay.
Yeah, we're the homeless.
The homeless one.
Okay. And then I know I'm on CEPC, which is the Client and Environmental
Right.
Action Committee. But again, those appointments kind of run through calendar year, so we don't have to decide on those. Those are already designated. But for a senior advocate, just wanted to see if you all were comfortable saying, Ms. Blunt, Councilmember Blunt, you're our person, to lead in that effort. And I remember also you had mentioned something about nonprofits and your experience in working with them, and just wanted to ask, don't feel pressure to say yes, but.
Yes.
Okay. It was in her body language, yes.
Mayor, I just want to back up a little bit.
Sure,
too.
go
I mean,
ahead.
It's just, this came out of our September 26th orientation and everything. It's a little bit best sometimes to divide and conquer, because, everything seems to, one get funneled through the mayor, and, or people, you might get an update here and an update there. It's nice to have a point person for certain things, so then you can bring it back to the mayor and council and the town administrator, town staff and everything. Because that way it just keeps us from going, this person attends or gets updated this month and maybe skips a month or something, then they gotta be caught up again. So just trying to, have a point person basically. That's all I was trying to start the discussion with. And this list is fluid, it's not set in stone or anything. We can update it or, add things, or as things fall off, like the census is going to, it's real important right now, but that's going to fall off here pretty soon. So just things like that, but that's something that's, it's alive, it's got legs, so we got to keep it going. So.
But we can still assist
Oh, yeah.
other areas.
Mm-hmm.
And, sorry, go ahead, Councilmember Rowell.
I was asked by you, Mayor James, to take up, so I have a recent passion for biking. And so I recently connected with a deputy director of the Maryland Capital Parks and Planning, and we had a lot of synergy about wellness opportunities. So I would love to take on D, which is Parks and Trails. But one thing that I see that is missing, and I would like to volunteer myself to lead, is business economic development. I think there are lots of opportunities for our businesses here in town to expand, receive grants, opportunities, especially in the COVID environment. And that's an area where I think that we need to focus more on as it relates to the businesses that are in town. So I would love to partner with someone here. I would like it to be co-led, to just work on economic and business development, especially for our businesses, and for smaller communities. It's a great time for us to start thinking, like, what's it going to take to start a business? For young people that may have hopes of being a business owner, I think that this is the grassroots part where we can empower our residents to be business owners here in town.
And I think that's a great idea. One of the initiatives I started after I was elected was the Bladensburg Business Roundtable, where we would meet quarterly. And so I would invite Chief, who else, the community, well, now the CAT team, to give stats on calls for service, things going on in the community. The town administrator would also attend to share updates, and then I kind of do a hodgepodge of updates for them. And unfortunately, We haven't been able to meet this year due to COVID, but as information was being shared from Congressman Brown's office or Congressman Steny Hoyer on the different grants on small businesses, I was pushing that sort of information out just to keep in touch. And no, we're not just here to collect your taxes, but we want you to be here. We want to make sure you're okay, and emailing them periodically. So, I mean, we have something currently, but I feel like you could help, add to that. So if you're okay with that, I'd say let's lead that together. And then also, like you said, with the economic development, that kind of ties into it because we need them as we're thinking about growing the business base that we have in the community, also determining what sort of resources that they need, but we just don't have here. And so it was actually nice too because of our municipal liaison with the county exec's office, Ms. Hill could attend. And from that county perspective, share updates at that level as well. So the one thought, initially I was thinking, well, we don't know what this COVID thing is in March, so maybe we'll be back to meeting in person by summer, and obviously we're not. So I do think we're gonna have to consider resuming virtually, which for business owners, I don't know how that's gonna work, but I'd love to talk with you more, share some of the things we've discussed in the past, and then particularly with the flooding and other things, I think it's a good time to reconvene with them and just reestablish, the regular quarterly updates and meetings. Because again, if you meet monthly with that group, it's not going to work. Quarterly seemed to work best, and it was an easier lift for their time commitment. So, and especially with the ebbs and flows of their business cycles. So, yes, ma'am, Councilmember.
I got a couple questions or comments from residents. With the mask on, everybody's got to speak up because they're not. They said, at least from one resident, so it's.
Do you mind if you're speaking, just take it down?
I think it's perfect.
Maybe that'll help.
I think it's perfect.
Okay.
Just so we're clear to to hear. As I say that with my mask on. But,
Thank you, Councilmember Lundy.
You don't have to if you're not comfortable. You don't have to if you're not comfortable.
Y'all don't know I'm an undercover comedian. Okay, so anyway, one of the agenda items that I would like to see the business and economic development deal with in the midst of this pandemic is to invite the businesses to come together and talk about what they're experiencing, what they're going through, how they're handling this. So not being a part of the committee, but I would like to see a business roundtable on that. Because living in the community, we visit these stores and there's some challenges going on. So I would like to know, what are they? So if you all could consider that, Councilmember Rout and Mayor James, please. And then also I would like to join Councilmember Blunt with the nonprofit liaison, specifically my passion for the faith community. So if you would be so kind to involve me in that, I would appreciate that as well.
And
thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Lundy, because you just prompted me. So we used to have a pastoral lay council. We're right there. Yes, and the thing is, so people always talk about separation of church and state, and we totally respect that. But with this group, what was nice is that they met, so it gave them an opportunity to network. But then you also had the town being able to come in, talk about what initiatives we're working on, and then say, hey, we've got such and such coming up. And you've got volunteers who want to help. They say, well, we have church members who want to volunteer to help with the food giveaway, or we want to do a food pantry. Maybe we could do that for the town. But Councilmember Ficklin was our liaison for many years with that. So if you would, consider it, and maybe we could talk offline, or Councilmember Blunt might be able to give you some of the history on it. But they were, in my opinion, they were very, successful. It was a great group that worked very well together. So that might be an option, especially because of your passion. Let's see, and then I know Councilmember Mendoza leads our efforts on the events specifically related to our Latino population in terms of working with Miss Guzman, Miss Eloisa Guzman. If you don't know, she's the godmother of Bladensburg. And, and what they do is so unique because they bring together so many different Spanish-speaking cultures. I'm really sad that we couldn't have Mexican Independence Day in the park this year, but last year I remember they brought in the ambassador to the U.S. from Mexico, Senora Barta. Yeah, I mean that was historic. One, she's the first female ambassador to the U.S. from Mexico, and then to have her come to Bladensburg, that was monumental. Because typically they stay in the district for that celebration.
They don't. The ambassadors don't normally come to this event, the consulate does. This time the ambassador says, I want to go myself.
Yeah. And she wore the authentic dress of her people. I mean, it was an incredible and very historic moment. So we already know you have that and you have Boy Scouts. But if there's anything else,
One thing that we should start planning now is Black History because before you know the holiday comes on us. And it's January 1st, and then we won't be ready.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about that this weekend, and really, I'm glad you brought that up because we usually plan that with a committee, and a few staff are on there. But my thought was we're going to have to think about doing something virtually, so it may have to be a series of things online because we most likely won't be able to get together, or we may have to do like the community forum, where there are speakers in a room and it's being broadcast out or something. But definitely, I think myself and Councilmember Lundy were on there with the staff. So if you're up for it, maybe we can reassemble, get the band back together and get started. Yeah, it came together. The staff did a really good job with that.
Maybe performances, or if they can, like off-site and pipe in or something.
Right.
Just if they can. I mean, it was really nice.
And one other thought was maybe we build a broadcast where we build the program working with our producer, Mr. Gray, and then, so let's say it's the Bowie State, no, I'm sorry, scrap that, the Howard University Gospel Choir. And maybe it's a pre-recorded set of songs and we mash that up with a keynote speaker. Maybe they're filmed in here. We can be creative with it, but again, just want to get the wheels turning sooner, because to Councilmember Mendoza's point, February will be here in 2 seconds.
It's like a virtual program, so it'll be like a virtual program.
They could contact somebody in history, do like a later history from the African American thing, and then they can do a small program and then we can broadcast.
I think we have a theme. I like it.
And Mayor James, I wrote an actual play 2 years ago that we didn't use. When I had volunteered.
That's right.
So I still have to pull that play out.
So we have
that
some
I wrote
resources.
2 years ago.
Yes.
Shine it up and polish it. There was a lot of information. I had contacted the African American, Prince George's County African American Museum, and received a plethora of information just about Bladensburg and Boswick, and she had took me on a history lesson. It was, it was amazing, and I was like, okay, so how do I write this? And it was, so that's an opportunity as well.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I forgot about the play. I remember reading the script. So awesome.
And any speakers you want to get me and think of,
we've got to start now.
Yeah. Because they'll book up quick and get them to commit now and get on my calendar early. It's best.
Good point. Okay. So looking at the list, Census Committee, Councilmember Rout, you're already rolling with it. Do you mind just helping us finish strong? We got 2.5 more weeks. Okay, thank you.
And voter registration.
And voter registration, because that's the other piece. Is Census Committee, but really voter registration. We're gonna have to keep that going until Election Day, and even figure out a plan to get our residents out to vote, or to drop off their mail-in ballots. So maybe we could talk about whether it's posting videos each week up until the election, encouraging people or reminding them of fun facts about or dates, upcoming deadlines. But you're right, the voter piece has to be a part of that too. Thank you for that. And then Council Member Lundy is on the MML, I'm blanking on the committee.
The legislative committee?
Legislative committee, so she is our liaison there. And as we said on MWCOG, we have appointments there, but we'll have to revisit those at the end of the year. On PGCMA, I know Councilmember Lundy, you're super active. Do you mind being our sort of lead on PGCMA? Okay, great. With the Bostwick House, I'm already begging for money because of the legislative priorities, so I'm happy to continue helping on that front. Also because there's staff changes coming about, and so might need some help. I'm thinking to keep the meetings and stuff going forward so things don't get delayed there, which is important because of the grant applications that are out currently. Green team, that has, I will help. I can help you. And especially being on the environmental committee with COG, and we just need to get residents engaged and continuing, so I'm happy to help.
And also because with MML, one of our initiatives with the legislative committee is the climate change, and so all of that's a part of it. I have some great ideas with respect to this, so I would be happy to get the contact information for our green team, get the list of those members and their names, so I can get that with you offline.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. So we have a start, and again, if something becomes overwhelming or you realize that I'm not into this, just let us know. This is not to stress anybody out. We just want to make sure everybody's engaged and able to share the great expertise you all have.
And things don't fall through the cracks.
And that, yes, the reporting out.
And I used to know because we do get a lot of requests coming through here, it's like who's the best person to contact, so it's like, here, so it's, that way, we plug all the holes basically, so it's.
Yeah. And the other thing is this may grow, so as you hear of other things that are out there, let's talk about it because this is only what we know currently. So we can only continue improving.
And there are also, there's a lot of resources that I have from years past, so it has a, front office has a lot of resources you can tap into. Okay.
That's a good point. Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
On all points.
All right.
Perfect.
Mayor James,
Yes.
So recently, Acting Town Administrator Tonelli and I were invited to a call from the Prince George's County Health Department as it relates to healthy food choices. They have some grant initiatives. Unfortunately, we had to reschedule that meeting because of the flood. We needed to respond to residents and residents' concerns. So there's, Bladensburg has hit the attention of the health department as it relates to healthy food corner stores. And I was contacted by the health department to see if we could do any synergy. So I don't know if that's under business development because I would be looking at our stores. But it was just an initial conversation. Acting Town Administrator and I were like, yeah, we can do the call, but then that's when the state was coming out and we had to be present. So that's another something that I think there's of interest in town.
And I'm glad you raised that because just thinking through our sustainable Maryland goals that we came up with the other port towns, that ties right into it, having healthy food options within our community. So I feel like that's a leg all by itself that you could go down, in terms of the partnerships, the resources. And there's still, like you said, some crossover with business, but which we're helping with anyway. So yeah.
I just wanted to put that out there.
Adding that to the
case.
list. Okay.
So I have a comment too. So
Yes, Councilmember Lundy?
Yes, thank you, Mayor James. So with all of these special interest groups, we'll have the support of the staff, Vito, that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's, so basically the point person and bring it
Yeah.
back, to, through the town administrator's office to see, what we can do. And then that way we start aligning the staff resources and everything, But it also has to go back to the mayor and council as well. It's like an update, like a monthly update as well. So everybody's on the same page.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Yep.
And going back to our leadership training, I think when we resume our council check-ins, this is the opportunity to say, okay, these things came up that we may need some resources on, with the town administrator sort of being that air traffic control, because they kind of know, well, based on this date, staff are committed for X. Just to have some coordination across teams, because that's just something our staff or the council doesn't know. We're not on who's working on what staff schedules are, so we need to really be in touch with the town administrator on just in coordination and out of respect for staff time. So,
And not everything brought to us, as we find out, there's a vetting process. It might not be applicable to the town or not, because the people, the contact may not know, if this is going to work or not. It was just, so not everything's going to come, so we got to flush some things out and everything that's going to work best for the town, what's possible for the town, what's possible with limited staff resources and everything, and funding and all that stuff. So it's, and something else to add to the list too is like transportation projects. I don't know, either mass transit projects or things going on with the maglev, or just like updates, just somebody to be updated as that comes up.
yeah, I fell off on that, and I was definitely keeping everyone up to speed on maglev, but just with COVID, I see the updates and haven't been reporting out, but I saw a hand go up. Councilmember Lundy, did I see your hand go up?
Oh, no, I'm scratching my head. I'm sorry.
So I will put myself down there to bring back the updates. And then, as you all know, Ms. Susan McCutcheon pushes out a lot of information about transportation issues as well. So we have also a great resource in her. I think, that, again, this is it for now, but this is not yeah, put me down. Yep, I got me there. Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Lundy.
Yes. So I wanted to, while we're still on this area, I don't know if you all knew or not, but I was looking for it, and to let Councilmember Mendoza probably already knew this, that the owner, Eloisa, was featured in the county at Takeout Tuesdays, her restaurant, La Serenita Restaurant in Hinesville. She was featured. And so I just want to congratulate her on that. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if he's watching. That is wonderful. We love Ms. Guzman. All right, thank you for that. So we're up, and I know we've got to wrap soon so we can get ready for the council meeting. So turning it over to Acting Town Administrator, Mr. Tonelli, for new business items.
Actually, I think we had a schedule, so I got a little bit.
Sean's behind you going, no.
I think I just told Sean, said, oh gosh.
I think he did pick up the remote for the timer, so there may or may not be a timer at the back of the room.
Okay, as we talked about in previous meetings, we got a $575,000 grant from the county for COVID-19 funding and resources to use to address the pandemic as it affects the town, and additional resources we may need or use for various things to address the pandemic. What we ask for cannot be already in our budget. It can't fund things or positions or ongoing operating expenses or planned capital expenditures that are already passed in our budget. So there are a few items on here that we identified. Some of these I'm ready to bring to the council. Some we're waiting for more information, but at least I wanted to get the ball started. And I'm not going to look for probably a motion at the council meeting to approve purchases on most of these, because I was hoping for more information as it came close. We're pressing, everybody, because the funds have to be spent by December 31st. And some of the larger things on there, like if you see from our first one, you notice item D, the largest one that we asked for is to help out our Bladensburg Volunteer Fire Department, number 9, is completely 100% volunteer and relies on their own funding to go out and raise money for capital purchases. And they were getting a large portion of their revenues from bingo that they were doing weekly.
Weekly, correct.
Yeah. So with COVID, that dropped off. And also with COVID, ambulance calls have dropped off. And they use that as billing purposes as well, because people didn't want to go to the hospitals at first. So the amount of calls dropped off has impacted their funding. What other counties I've talked to have used when they own their own DES, their own Department of Emergency Services Department, they have gone out and purchased additional ambulances. So, but that's because they already own the department, they're in charge of the department. I went back to the county and ASM, we're separate, but they respond they primarily respond to Bladensburg and the whole area. And they asked them if there's any way we could put in our grant capital funds for them to help them purchase an ambulance. Now, an ambulance is very expensive when you purchase an entire unit outfitted with the box. So what we asked them is, can we at least buy the cab and chassis for volunteer fire department next door? So we put in $117,000. They've received only one quote so far, and this is a little bit difficult because a couple things going on here. This is not in their current budget, okay? So no matter what, I'm going to bring us back to the mayor and council. Now, we normally need at least 2 quotes, if not 3 quotes. So far, we've gotten 1 quote, and it's kind of difficult because they know what they want. They know the manufacturer that they want. I mean, it's on a Freightliner chassis, and this is just a cab and chassis. If you ever see it, it's just the cab and the rails going down and the tires, okay? So if you ever drive by a commercial truck dealership, you'll see them out front, and then they put different boxes on top. They'll put an ambulance box, they'll put a refrigerated box for refrigerated transport, they'll just put an empty box on there for cargo truck. Could put a flatbed box on there for a flatbed trailer, on and on and on. So we're buying just the cab, what's called the chassis. It came in under $92,000. We asked them to go out to get more quotes, but it's kind of hard because when you give the manufacturer, you get the manufacturer's quote, and it's what they want, So it's a Freightliner quote. I asked them to go out and get a Mac quote. Yes, but it's not what they want. So it's so it's kind of difficult. I don't want to say it's a sole source. I'm going to ask Sean to jump in.
I'll say, if I could jump in, when it comes to certain chassis and stuff like that, they want to get what's going to be best for the community, what's going to get the best bang for their buck. So if they go to Ford and get a quote, you only may get 5 years out of a Ford chassis. With Freightliner, they're expecting at least get a minimum of 10 years out of the chassis. But they are researching additional manufacturers that would be comparable to Freightliner, but again, some of it's comparing apples to oranges. They want to get the best bang for the buck and what's going to do best for the community and the life of the service of the vehicle.
And it's also, we had $117,000 budgeted, and it's coming in under $92,000. So it's significant savings because this is what they want. At the same time, we don't have additional quotes either. So that's why I'm saying I don't think I'm ready to bring it to the mayor and council, but that is, according to purchasing guidelines, but I don't, the best way, it's coming in it's coming in a very favorable price, and this is what they want, so it's.
Right, and I do understand that, but just to be compliant with our own financial policies, we're not telling them they have to go to Ford or Mac or any other company. We just have to have 2 more quotes that are comparable. So even if it's not exact, we just need something. That can be their preference, and we'll support that because they're the experts. They know more about the calls that they receive in the community, and we trust them as a partner. But just from a fiduciary standpoint, we can't proceed with just that 1 quote. So the sooner they can get that for us, I think it would be better so that we can move things forward. Councilmember Rout?
Yes, Mayor James, I agree. Even if it's another company that produces the Freightliner M2106, there should be other companies that produce that same version of the chassis. And so I don't think it's a hard lift. So I would like to be, fiduciary responsible. So I yield back.
Thank you, Councilmember Rout. Councilmember Lundy?
Yes, I definitely second that, third that, or what have you, because I don't believe that this is a sole source. Yeah, so.
And that's why I want to bring it to you all. I knew that was, just want to.
But I appreciate it. I
Yeah.
know it's tough, and I know they're short over there as well. So trying to find somebody who can do the administrative back and forth with the quotes, I get it. They're kind of tapped out, but I can give the chief a call if need be and just talk to him to stress. We really need.
We're working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll let you handle it. Thank you.
Yeah.
But we definitely appreciate that update. And if you could just relay, we want to help, but we just have to do this the right way. So.
Okay. I have lots. Okay, so I'm not going to bring that. So I'm going to strike this from the mayor and council agenda because there's nothing to bring there yet. But I just wanted to give you all a heads up. Probably bring it to you in November. Laptops for teleworking. That is ongoing right now. These are individual units, but it's grouped together, and they are Dell laptops. They are what's used by our IT company, and that's an ongoing process. I don't have the quote and invoice to bring to you right now, but that's coming in under budget as well, and it's nice when we go through them. We get the same pricing through Dell as we get through them, but they warranty them instead of going back to Dell if there's an issue. We have a contract with, if anybody's ever had an issue with a laptop and tried calling just the 800 number, you'll be lost for 45 minutes on there. So it's nice that it's done through our IT company. So, but it's an ongoing project, and I don't have an invoice yet. I thought that would be coming, but they're still working on it. So that's not going to make the agenda either this evening. The phone system purchase. Close with that one. We have 2 quotes. Our phone system, I'm gonna have Chief chime in too on this if he can at some point. Our phone system hasn't been, my gosh, I think I have the same phone system for
Ever.
yeah, so honestly, Moses installed it, but it's been here a long time, and it's showing its issues, and it was built for, I guess, the 1990s when we had a lot of call volume, and it's built on it got upgraded like 2000 infrastructure where it's a little bit of voice over IP, but still backed primarily by the old copper lines and everything. This is also, I'm gonna take this off, I'm talking this much. This also goes through our call center through communications, and we're starting to find some difficulties with it, to say the least. And this is covered under the COVID-19 funding because it is part of our communications, for residents, for resources, for 911 call center. So we went out and, but it's also a little bit more complex because we are on the, help me out, Chief, the Prince George's County system that we are on. INET, thank you. It's pretty much a closed loop system just for municipalities in the county. So you have to have, good good IT backing to understand that system and everything. So it's not just like a plug and play where you go into a business and just plug in and say Verizon, pull the, all the Verizon lines in. When we're on INET, that's a whole parallel system as well. So that takes a little bit more. And it's also going to give us more flexibility with remote teleworking and everything, because people could have off-site extensions and everything. And that's part of the COVID-19 grant too, is to promote teleworking and employee access to files and communications and telephone calls and everything. So far we have 2 quotes, and one is from Maryland Telephone. They came in under, but we're waiting on what they can do with the recording part of the, help me out,
For the 911 calls.
yeah. Go ahead, Chief.
Oh, no, so what has to happen is when calls come into the communications center, they should be recorded. They at times can be evidentiary value for court cases, 911, domestic violence, and things like that. So we have to have the ability to be able to retrieve that data, those calls, and forward it to the state's attorney's office. So with this current system, it's starting to break down when we have had periods of time where we have lost that those 911 calls.
So Maryland Telephone so far has come in quite a bit less, but we're missing that piece of what's going to cost to do the 911 reporting. So hoping to get that again by meeting time, and just it hasn't happened yet. So it's not, I would say it's not a complete quote, but we're very close. I just want everybody to see it. And Bay Telephone did come in higher, but I think Chief and I had a little bit more, I must say I had a little bit more preference because they understood the system. They understood the IT structure. And they immediately said, I need to put this piece of equipment here in front of this one, and I have that, and you got to upgrade this one. And the nice thing about that is the service, is the person that was here giving us the quote is also the person that's going to be installing it, is also going to be the person warranting, is also going to be the person that you call directly, who's local in case anything shuts down. That, I think, we're looking at a, $14,000 difference here, but, that versus the other telephone company where you call an 800 number or you submit your issue online. It's for what we do here, and with 911 and everything, if anything goes down, I don't want to say you can't put a price on life or anything.